Hello, and welcome to the Real Ram Fam. On my channel, I intend to provide you with a safe platform to discuss the intersections of your entire being, to be able to be comfortable in your own skin, in mission or position. There is no one like you, and we all have a purpose and message. I, for one, am a black woman, mother of four, a military veteran, and a wife, and a social worker, just to name a few. From my channel, I hope that you learn more about military families and social workers. Three of the social work values are my aim in each video: importance of human relationships, dignity and worth of the person, and social justice. No matter what you initially think when you hear social worker, there is more to the profession. Trust me. Stay locked in by subscribing to the channel, and be sure that you hit that notifications bell so you don't miss any new uploads. Without further ado, on to today's episode. What's going on, Ram Fam? Thank you all for tuning in today. And so I have with me today my social work guest, Kris Fulkerson. She is joining me from the Midwest. Hello, Kris. Thank you for joining. How you doing today?
I'm doing fabulous. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining. All right, so I got some questions that I start off with, and the first question is, what is your birth order?
My birth order?
Yeah.
So I am second born.
You're second born.
Second
Do you
born.
get that particular personality stereotype that they have of second borns?
I think because I'm the firstborn girl, I think maybe I have some of those firstborn traits. Like I'm definite overachiever and all of that. So, but I'm not a rule follower, which is very firstborn. So I'm not rule follower at all. So that's definitely second born. So I think best of both worlds. I think ideally everybody would be second born so they could be like me. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I'm only. I'm my mom's only, so yeah, I definitely fit that only born characteristic.
Yeah.
I am my father's second, but there's a huge gap between me and the baby, so I'm not exactly sure how I fit there.
You don't fit either. You don't fit either.
Yeah, but definitely that only child, like for sure. So my second question is normally to non-social workers. It's like, what do you think when you hear of a social worker? So we know what a social worker is.
I think superhero cape. I think angel wings and devil horns both at the same time. I think like best anime character ever, because we've always got 10,000 solutions for every problem, right? Like I think, and I tell everybody like best gig ever, like because and maybe it's because I primarily work with kids, but I'm like, I get to play games all day. I get to eat candy. Arts and crafts, I get paid to do. Being outside is considered great. Like there's so many bonuses to it. So I just look at everybody. I'm like, don't you want to be a social worker when you grow up? And most kids say, no.
Yeah, so my aim definitely is to, first of all, I forgot to say Happy Social Workers Month.
And you too.
Happy Women's History Month.
Look at us just celebrating.
Yes. So my aim definitely was my channel period is to let people understand that social workers are not all child and family service. We're not all caseworkers. And even with that, they're not all baby snatchers. So let's inform the people on what it is that you do in the field of social work.
Awesome. So it's a huge field. It's a huge field. So I've been a social worker since 2005. I graduated with my MSW then. So long time, 15, 16 years. I spent the first 13 years of my career, so even before I was a social worker, because I got a master's in psychology. and then got a master's in social work, which sounds really impressive. Lots of letters after my name, but really it just means I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up, right? Like I just couldn't figure out my stuff. So I was working at a grief center when I got my MSW and became a social worker, and I just continued that. So my core training, my foundation is grief, loss, and trauma, with a specialty with children and teens. So spent those first 13 years helping children, teens, their families before and after someone died. I did a lot of outreach into impoverished inner city areas, did a lot of work with kids who just had no resources, that kind of stuff. And just a lot of kids with chronic loss. And so just showing up week after week made such a huge difference because they hadn't had a lot of continuity in their life. They hadn't had an adult that would say, hey, I'm going to be back next week, and was actually back next week. Like these kids were really struggling. And so I did that. And then I am from small town, Southern Illinois, and very, very rural area. And I was raising my kids here. And I was doing the work about 45 minutes away, much closer to St. Louis, Missouri. And there was just a complete lack of resources here. People had to drive 45 minutes to see a psychiatrist. There were a couple of counselors here, some fantastic counselors were here, but there were only two of them, and they only took insurance. And when they were full, they were full. And finding people who specialized in children on top of that was just, it was unheard of. And so I was fortunate that I was working at the time at the Grief Center. I had hired on my best friend, and we had desks, right? Like it was my desk and her desk, and in the middle was the chocolate drawer. Like you could just open it and there was full of chocolate. And this is why we were best friends, because this was important to us, right? Like, the paperwork was over there, but the chocolate was right here. And so I just remember it was like 2015 and kind of looking over at her, and we were talking about how this area, there's nothing, and why hasn't somebody done that? And it was like light bulb, like, dude, we're qualified. Why are we not doing it? And so ended up resigning from the Grief Center so that I could start, again, co-found a nonprofit that does all this community outreach. So we provide counseling to people in need, particularly children and teenagers, but also adults too. And it's a pay what you can program. So if the amount they can afford to pay every session is $0, then they pay $0. If they can pay $20, great, they pay $20. Like it doesn't matter. We don't have a sliding scale. It's really just pay what you can, and we'll take you at your word for it. We do all kinds of outreach. So we do prom dress and homecoming dress giveaways, and we get formal clothes for the boys, and we do graduation dresses and Easter dresses. And if you tell me, hey, Kris, I need this dress, like I'm going to get you this dress, that kind of stuff. We do snack packs for the kids. So the kids who get free and reduced lunches at the schools, we send food home with them on the weekends through the schools. So we partner with the schools, partner with local communities, and we do that. We do extended holiday food packs. We do summer packs so that the kids can come up to school, grab a bag of food, and take it home. And it's all kid-friendly food. They can all make it themselves. So if they're, what we used to call latchkey kids, the kids who are home alone and stuff, they can still feed themselves and eat something. And so we do that. We sponsor families at Christmas. We do, something that's just really near and dear to my heart is that I will post on our Facebook and just be like, hey guys, Valentine's Day's coming. Like, let's do dinners. And I can't tell you how meaningful it is for a family to pick up like all the fixins to make like a steak dinner, because our families in need don't get steak dinners, like that's a big deal. So we're getting ready to do Easter, and I threw up there. I'm like, hey, what do you guys want to do? And one of our followers, I really love her. She's so dedicated. She's like, so I have 800 filled Easter eggs for you. I was like, oh my word, we're going to have to do something with these 800 Easter eggs. And so we're going to make Easter dinner happen and give away Easter baskets. So we do, I'm a suicide prevention trainer. So I'm training what's called QPR. And so I do QPR trainings, and we do that. And then, of course, with the pandemic, we've done a lot of work with the pandemic. And so the conversations now are about, like, we have this community level trauma from the pandemic. So how do we do community level healing? Like, what are we going to do about that? And so really just trying to be that community resource and build it so that the needs are being met. We've got our team in a number of the local schools just taking care of the kids who life happens. Somebody dies, they're getting bullied, parents are getting divorced, they're awkward. Like, those kids need somebody. And so right now we've got counselors in a lot of the local schools that are helping with that. And we've got closets in the local schools so the kids can go shopping. So and it's free, like shopping. And it's got like toilet paper and paper towels and shampoo and soap and deodorant and clothes and shoes and that kind of stuff. And I can't tell you how humbling it is to have a little second grader walk in and be like, Miss Kris, we ran out of toilet paper. We haven't had any all weekend. Can I get some toilet paper? And they're like so proud to walk out. And I'm just like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, it's 2021 and you're like 8. And that's what, it's amazing what we're doing, but it's also heartbreaking at the same time. Right.
Yeah. So let's back up. For the people who actually saw the thumbnail, you are a licensed clinical social worker.
Correct.
So what is that?
So it means I went to school for a really long time. In Illinois, when you graduate with your master's in social work, you can immediately become a licensed social worker. So that means, hey, I got my master's, I did the extra school, I'm trained to do this. In addition to that, you can spend 2,000 hours of full-time work or 3,000 hours of part-time work.
I'm working on it.
Yeah, right? And you have to do supervision. So that means you've got somebody, an LCSW, a licensed clinical social worker, who's overseeing all of your work and making sure that what you're doing is good work and helping you find, how do I take all this stuff that I learned in grad school and apply it to this real world stuff that's going on out here. And so after those hours and hours and hours, then we get to take a great big test. And it's probably one of the hardest tests I've ever taken. And it was interesting to me because I had spent 3 years in the real world working, and the test didn't actually want to know what I really did. They wanted to know what the book said 3 years ago. And I did not remember. I was like, oh, that's all gone. Like, oh, that's not what I do. But that's not the answer they want. They don't want to know what I do. They want to know what I'm supposed to do. And I'm like, I try. But it's not that clean. In the book, it's really clean. So anyway, got my LCSW, so I'm a licensed clinical social worker. And that just means that I can supervise other social workers. It's the highest level of licensure that we can get. And so, as far as that goes, I'm as big girl as I can get, right? Full on adulting. But it's a lot of work. Like it is a lot of work. And so mad respect for every social worker out there that's been willing to put in the time and the energy to do it. Because there's a lot of heart in it. There really is. Even the burnt out social workers, like, they started out with heart. There's a reason they burnt out, and it's because they loved so much.
Yeah. So the clinical part means you're a therapist.
Correct.
That you provide mental health services. What's the difference between an LCSW and an LPC therapist?
So an LPC comes from a psychology background. And LCSW would come from a social work background. So there's that. I'm an interesting breed because I have a master's in developmental psychology, and then the master's in social work. So I have a psychology background, not a clinical psych, but a psych background. And so it's interesting to me. I feel like the psych background prepared me much more to be able to read and analyze data. And to understand the research studies, which is really helpful because we all want to use the research to inform our practice. I feel like the social work background really prepared me for like helping people, like real people. And so licensure wise, like, I know that the LCSW is considered higher. And so I can supervise somebody who is an LPC and an LCPC and help them get their, so that's a licensed clinical practicing counselor here in Illinois. So I can help them get their licensure, and LCPC cannot supervise an LCSW.
Right.
So it doesn't go both ways. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think you pretty much told us how many years, but just in case someone didn't catch that, how many years have you been practicing in clinical?
So 2005, I got my MSW. I was working as a grief counselor before that with my master's in psychology, but not licensed, which is important. Like, I had somebody overseeing all of my work and everything else. So LCSW I got in 2008. So graduated in 2005, got my actual clinical license in 2008. So long time. That's the answer. Long time.
It's long enough for me.
Exactly.
What? I got your question. I don't know how to put captions on this live stream. I don't know where that is on here. It's not. It's supposed to do it on YouTube. I don't know.
No.
YouTube should be doing it for me. So getting into it, how do you define grief and how do you define trauma?
So I've given lots and lots of presentations on grief, and I've talked to lots of people about it. And I'm going to tell you that I use the same definition for grief for adults that I use for kids, because I don't think there is a good definition for it. I think it's the sad, mad, bad feeling you get when you lose someone or something.
Sad, bad, and mad.
Mm-hmm. Yep, those are the three that I put to it. And it's just because, like, there's all these definitions out there, and they're big definitions. They have big words, and I don't think you can capture it. I just don't. I don't know that words are doing it justice, because it's such a feeling, and just an indescribable feeling. As for trauma is such a personal thing. For me, like, we all have challenges. Everybody's life is difficult. Everybody's life is hard. And so we all have challenges, but trauma is something that gets in your way. And it's an internal gets in your way, right? It's something in here that I'm just not clicking with, or it's something in my body that I haven't looked at, and my body's going, yeah, hey, you're not doing it right. Like, you've stuffed everything down in me, and I can't hold this. It's too big. And so that's trauma.
Do you listen to podcasts?
Nope, I don't. Not usually.
So I listen to a social worker's podcast, Kathy Adams. It's called Zen Parenting.
Okay.
And they talk about lots of things, right? And so they talked about trauma once before, and empathy, and so she's the licensed clinical social worker, and her husband also, he has a men's group. And so the way that they were having their conversation and described trauma, kind of like how you did. And she was saying how you gotta feel your feelings, and you gotta, like, live through it in order to get past it, right? You can't shut it down, right?
Right.
So, so I'm show this comment for you. The COVID.
Yes. So, and we talked about this before we got on air, and I said, like, I feel like we've got community level trauma. And so, one of the big things that we're talking about at Coping is, how do we do community level healing? So here's fun fact. I also happen to be a certified yoga teacher.
Okay.
And I incorporate yoga into my social work practice. And I actually credit yoga with saving my sanity when my husband got cancer and after he died. Like, it was, again, grief doesn't have words. And so some stuff I just had to literally work through. And I did that through my yoga. And so one of the things that we just talked about today was doing some community yoga and let's come together. We don't necessarily have to talk about the pandemic. We've all talked about it so much and we've been inundated with information and so much has come, like maybe we don't need to talk about it, but maybe we need to be together. And maybe we need to heal. And so talking about using the park and doing some, like, hey, just grab a mat, come out, Kris will lead it, and let's just do some yoga and let's just really start to come together and heal, because we really have, like, I think that's such a valid point. We've all been traumatized by this. Again, some of us are going to come out unscathed or minimally, and be able to process through it. And some of us, though, we're going to hold on to it. And it's going to be something 20 years down the road that's still going to be there because we're trying not to look at it. That's trauma.
Yeah. So hurt, sad, and mad, right?
Sad, mad, and bad.
Sad, mad, and bad. How have you seen it in your practice being displayed through the children and the teenagers?
It's all behavior, almost across the board. They talk with their behavior. And with the pandemic, I mean, it's the lack of motivation in school, right? It's the, I'm just going to lay in bed all day. It's the, I don't want to do anything. It's the, fine, I'll go to school, but I'm not going to participate. It's this year, we got more kids with their hoods up. Like nobody's allowed to have hoods up in school. We've been doing this forever. Yeah. Yeah, you're not allowed to have your hood up in school.
It was just my house.
No, it's school. And so all the kids have their hood up and all the adults are like, take your hood up, but that's such a protective thing. Like, it's such a protective thing. Like, I don't want to take my hood down, And so, I mean, behaviorally, for sure, we're seeing it. It's the lack of hygiene. Yeah. I'm describing your house, I can tell.
No, all you're doing is giving me my next question, but I'm gonna let you finish.
That's funny. So I mean, across the board, it's certainly behavior. And the whole pandemic has been trying to balance what's right for everybody as a community from a public health standpoint and what's right for everybody from a mental health standpoint. Let me back up. For social workers, that's what it's been, right? Because there's also that financial piece too. But that financial piece, for at least in the social work world, it underlies everything, right? If you don't have financial security, if you don't have food security, if you don't have housing security, like, we're never getting to the higher level stuff. We're never touching the trauma because we're worried about just surviving. And so, but with the kids, I feel like we've done a decent job of getting educators trauma informed. Like, I think theoretically they understand it. I go back to my social work, right? Like, I graduated, a little baby social worker. I have my degree. I know what I'm doing. And then I got in the real world and I'm like, whoa. And I feel like that's where the teachers are, the educators, their staff right now. I feel like that's where they are with trauma. Like, they recognize this is important. They are on board. They are trauma informed. But when they see it in the classroom, they're like, this is not, like, this kid is refusing to do work all the time. Like, or they're throwing things, or they're yelling at me. And like, that's disrespect. Like, that's trauma. Like, and here's X, Y, and Z that we know that's going on behind the scenes. But it's that transformation of, how do I do trauma informed? And I've got 25 other kids in the class. Like, I don't just have this one. Like, this is not, like, we were supposed to do this one intervention. They told me how to be trauma informed, and I've got that, and I did that. It's not working, Kris. Like, no, it's not. It's not, because it's not that fast and it's not that easy.
So how do we differentiate trauma and those behaviors from depression and those exact same behaviors?
Or ADHD, because ADHD mimics trauma and vice versa. They look almost exactly the same. And so a lot of times what we look for is, we do I'm lacking the word here, the evidence-based treatment, right? Top of the line treatment for ADHD or for depression. And if that kid isn't responding, red flag. Is there something else going on here? Is it just mimicking, right? Does it look like that because that's how they're expressing their trauma? And so, and of course we do, and I'm sure you do this too, like you try and take a history, you try and find out what's happened in this kid's world. You've tried, and if you know those things, then you back up brain it, right? Like, okay, we got depression, but I also know like this kiddo's parents had an ugly divorce, right? And I don't know what he saw, or there was domestic violence in the home, or, they've moved, this is their fifth school, like what's up? Like something's, unstable for some reason. Is there something we can do there? Is there something that's happened? So I always have that in the back of my brain anyway, like who is this child? Because every child's different. Like I, in any given week, see 100 kids, upwards of 100 kids, because I'm in multiple schools and I do groups and all of that. And so you figure over the course of my career, I've seen thousands of children. I know a lot about kids and teenagers. I don't know anything about the kid that's sitting across from me. Like, I don't know a darn thing. And so I'm going to come into this, like with this knowledge, I'm going to put it in the back of my brain, but you're new to me. Like, so let's figure this out together. It's always a teamwork thing. And it really is. I do feel like you try this and maybe that doesn't work. So then you try this, and maybe that doesn't work. Maybe you try this, and suddenly you're like, oh, bam, I just saw that on their face. Like that was something, like there's something there. Let's follow that.
What are some things that you've tried pre-COVID that are not working now, and maybe vice versa?
I think there's a lot more hopelessness now. I think less now than there was in the middle of COVID, but I still think it's here. Numbers have dropped, so we've opened up some. People are getting vaccines, so I think people are starting to breathe a little bit easier. But about mid-COVID, it was really, there was some hopelessness. So I would say that, number one. Number two, when people are quarantined, I can't really tell them to go outside. Like I can't really be like, just, go absorb some sunshine. The sun heals. Go out in nature. We know that green heals. Like exercise. It is the number one non-medical antidepressant that you can do for yourself. Like you can't do any of that.
Yeah.
During quarantine and whatnot. And so that was tough. That was really tough. I mean, one of the things we tell parents is like, hey, like, can we limit the electronics? Can we they can't go anywhere. Like they're driving me crazy. Take my phone, go do something. Like, give me 10 minutes. And so all of that like went out the window. I remember like when school started August, September-ish. So the kids got out in March. They were out all summer, right? So many of the kids were like, it doesn't even feel real to be in school. I don't know how to be a student. Like, this doesn't feel like real life anymore. And so, and then of course they were in and they were out and they were home and they were like, there's been no continuity. And we know that as humans, we all like continuity, but we know that children need it even more than the rest of us.
Oh, this is my son.
No, I said, give you devices. I said, give you devices.
So what do we, has it been hard for parents to understand and appreciate the adjustment that the children have had to make, and therefore the ones that we have had to make to give our kids these devices, right?
I think it's been, so I think some of the parents got lost in their own heads and with their own stuff, because the pandemic stirred us all. Like it changed the rules for everybody. Thank you, David. You're my favorite. But it changed the rules for everybody. And so parents didn't know how to do it. Kids didn't know how to do it. Everybody had to make it up as they went along. For homes that already had lots of tension and were already on the brink of, some kind of an insecurity, those kind of things, like for a lot of them, it pushed them over. I will say, so for my kids at school who were okay, right? They were doing okay. Like everything was bebopping along okay, and pandemic hit. A lot of those families initially were like, whoa, and then kind of circled up and they figured out a new system and they kind of kept going. And those kids did okay. For my kids who school is home, School is where I go to get loved on. School is where they take care of me. School is where, I get stuff from the closet, and now I don't have access to that. School is where I get food, and I don't have access to that. Those kids plummeted, like literally plummeted. So I took my office. So I have a private practice office, and I moved it outside my patio. So I sat out on my patio, and I'm in the Midwest. So we have all 4 seasons. And so I was out there in snow, and I was out there in rain, and I was out there and it was 110. I got to tell you, Tawana, I never ever thought I would do counseling in shorts and a tank top sweating. And there I was in all my glory, like, look, this is what you get, because this is all I can do, because it's safe. And so those kids, as many as I could, we got to the private practice. Like, the schools were phenomenal about helping me get them here, so at least they could touch base with somebody, with an adult, that they were like, okay, you're still there, you haven't abandoned me, like I and that kind of thing. So that, I think, was probably the biggest thing. And a lot of my parents, like, they were supposed to remote homeschool, but they were essential workers. So you're a single parent and you're supposed to remote homeschool. Like, how do you do that? You don't. Right. So the kids are either at home by themselves, not doing it, because why would they, really? Or, the parent is, working 12 hours, coming home, and then trying to do school with their kids. Like, it was set up to fail. It really was. And so coming back into school and everybody's starting to get going and things are clicking again, like, one of the things, and my administrators have been phenomenal about this, is like, academics can come second, relationships come first. Like, build those relationships, rebuild those relationships. Like, none of the kids are behind because they're all behind. Therefore, they're all on target. So stop beating yourself up, because our teachers in this area, but teachers in general, are phenomenal people. Like, they're givers, they care, they want to make a difference. And so when they see the kids not doing what they've always seen kids that, that age and stage do, they're like, oh, it must be me. I'm not doing a good enough job. And I just don't think that's it. Like, I really just think, like, everybody was in survival mode. Like, you can't learn in survival mode. You can't. And that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is there something that what have the children shared with you the most that they have lost since COVID? Right? We know in the news, what the news has said. We know about the drive-by graduations and the lack of prom and all of that. But from the kids' point of views, what are they saying?
So I did a really neat thing, and I really enjoyed it. And I had a poster board that I kept out, and I would take out with me every kid I saw. And every week, in a different color, they wrote down what they were most worried about. And so that was really cool, because initially they were all scared that they were going to get COVID and die. And then that kind of morphed into someone they loved was going to get COVID and die. And that was, interesting. And then it became, am I ever going to see my friends again? Right. And so, and that's where kids are resilient, right? Like, they were like, okay, now let's get back to what's really, kid. And that is, am I ever going to see my kids again? And I would say it's the lost time with the kids, with their friends, like those connections. That's what they've lost. That and just having a schedule, which is funny to me. But when we started school back and I could see them again, the across the board, and it didn't matter how old the kid was, and big shout out to every parent out there, because it was my kids too. Every kid was like, my sleep schedule is terrible. Like, I stay up all night, and it didn't matter how old the kid was. Like, they were all telling me this, and I was just like, well, okay. Like, we had no schedule. Like, for real. It was just like, okay, like, we're just all on summer break, like, indefinitely. Like, here we go, guys. And so, I think they lost some of that. Like, how do I keep a schedule? How do I maintain a schedule? One of my kiddos is a high school freshman, and like, she's already over high school. She's like, I don't need to go to that building anymore. Like, I can do this from home for like 4 hours and then peace out. Can I just go to college? Like, I'm done. And so I feel like they've lost some of that, like the actual experience of high school. And so, and I don't know that they're going to get that back because they kind of passed go and collected their $200 already. And they're like, I don't want to do that anymore. Like that. Yeah. Why should I go sit in that building? I can do it at home.
Yeah. So in Illinois, the schedule is self-paced.
Not anymore. Now they're all back in school. So
okay. Yeah. Here in DC, it's not. They still have to follow the schedule. It's still virtual, but they still follow like the Bell schedule.
Do they? Are they in school all day?
Yes. Yes.
So ours is reduced, but they're back in school. So they go to school from like 8 until noon because they can't do lunch. And so again, the kids are like, I don't want to stay till 3 anymore. Like if we can get it all done between 8 and noon, let's get it all done and get out. And so they've missed out on like that lunchtime interaction. And they, there's like all that stuff that goes into being in high school. Like they're like, nah, I'm good.
No, I know Virginia was doing a couple days and half days, but no, not here in DC. It's been all day,
virtual learning a week. That's intense.
Yeah, that's kindergarten as well, like all K through 12, all day.
Yeah, I don't. So, okay, here's my little sidebar about education, and this is my social work sidebar about education. So the educational system is not built to meet the needs of the kids. It is built to meet the needs of the adults who work in it. Because if it was built to meet the needs of the kids, our kindergartners would play more. And they would learn through play because that is their language. And our preschoolers would, and our first graders would, and they would be a completely different setup. And our high schoolers would go to school from like noon until 6 because that is their biological clock. And we would not have all the truancy that we have in high school, and we would not have nearly as many kids who hate high school, because part of the issue is that their brains come alive at 8 p.m. And so we have set the schools up so that it's good for us. And I'm not complaining because like at this time of night, like I'm like, oh, it's late. It's like 8 o'clock. Like, wow, how'd I get so late? Yeah, and so I'm not complaining, but at the same time, I don't know that we've set it up for the kids to be as successful as they could be.
Right.
And then when I
hear that conversation.
Yeah. And when I hear virtual learning I'm just like, because we've done online training for years. And I got to tell you, after like 15 minutes, I'm like, yeah, paying attention. Sure. Like, oh, what are you doing over there? Like, I can't sit still that long. I can't attend that long. What are we asking our kids to do?
Right.
I don't know.
All right. Here's another question. How do you help your child out of depression because they can't go to college and it's hard being online?
Yeah. So I had 3 college freshmen this year. And here you go, like social worker, and I get to be a parenting expert, and I work with kids, and so one of them went to school for a week, called me crying, Mom, can I come home? I was like, you just got there. Like, but she's at U of I. She's an amazing, smart kid, but an introvert, not naturally outgoing. And U of I had a really, really strict policy. And so the kids were only allowed to be in their dorm rooms. You weren't allowed to hang out anywhere in the dorm. They closed the library. They closed the food places. Like, you could pick up food. You had to take it back to your room. So her and her roommate were going to Walmart 3 times a day just to get out and do something. And so I was like, that's fine. Come home. Like, everything's online. You can come home. So that one comes home. My 2 boys were in college. They were doing community college. And they both dropped out after the first semester. And I think a big part of it is like, there's nothing. Like, again, just like I was talking about my high schooler, like, college is different. Like, there is no hanging out. If they're having parties, they're on the down low, and you can't make friends because you're all in masks and it's weird. And I can't even get close enough to you to be like, hey, what's up, man? Like, I'm new here. Like, none of that. And so one of my boys went and got his realtor's license and he's working on selling houses. And the other one is like, he's trying to figure his stuff out. So I hear you on the, like, my child, can't go to college and is having a hard time learning online. What I'm going to say to you is, and what I would say to them is, like, do the best you can right now, because it's not always going to be like this. Like, this is temporary. And the more that we can remember that, the easier it's going to be. And to do what they can. If they're severely depressed and they can't function, obviously go get them a good social worker, because, like, we're really cool people to hang out with, and we can help. And if you can get them outside, like right now, especially, I just feel like I started college and then winter came and I was like, oh my goodness, this is not a good setup, right? And then they're like, oh, it's the holidays, everybody quarantine, nobody go anywhere. And it was really, really.
Yes.
And so my whole philosophy with kids always is, when they're having problems, is love them harder. Like, that is always my philosophy. Like, love them harder. The world is going to teach them everything they need to know. If my boy doesn't end up excelling at real estate, guess what? The world will tell him, and he will find something else. Like, and I will be right there and be like, all right, what do you need? And I will tell you, when my boys came to us and they were like, hey, we're dropping out, we're going to go do this other thing, I was just like, okay. And we had the conversation, right? Like, I think this is a mistake. I think you should stay in school. It's going to make your life easier. I think you're doing it the hard way. We had one conversation, got done with that. And I said, all right, what do you need from me? Because that's my job. Like, what do you need from me? Same way with social work. I parent the exact same way, which is probably why my kids look at me and they're like, stop social working me, mom. Like, I'm like, this is what I do. This is what I do. But yeah, I feel like I can't say that to people enough right now. Like, what can I do for you? How can I make it easier? Like, you tell me, because I've never been in a pandemic before. Like, I don't know how to do this any more than anybody. And I hope I never, ever need to use this knowledge again, because I don't really want to be in a pandemic again. Yeah.
Yes. Look, I'm running dry. I'm running dry. What is the name of your organization?
So it's Coping, the number 4, and then Kids. And that is, so I had a for-profit before I co-founded the nonprofit. So it's Coping, the number 4, Kids, and then Coping, the number 4, Life, and that's the nonprofit. So kind of smushed them together, and it's Coping for Kids, Coping for Life. That's it. Mm-hmm.
Why did it go on there 2 times?
Because it's that cool. It was like,
yeah. Amy's saying her son quit after the first day.
Thank you, Amy. I appreciate that. I hope he's doing something amazing, though.
And if they want to find your organization, where should they look?
So I'm on Facebook. I actually write a daily blog on Facebook, so you can hear all my crazy stories. I really, really don't have any secrets, because they're all, I'm like, hey, here's a stupid thing I did yesterday. Like, and so, but I always assume it can't be just me. Like, I'm not the only one having this experience. I'm very normal. I'm very human. And so I'm like, if I'm feeling this way, you're probably feeling this way too. And so I just talk about it, and that seems to help. So you can find us on Facebook, and then Coping for Life has a webpage like everybody else. And then I'm on Instagram. I almost forgot, Tawana. I'm on Instagram. And so, but it is all under Coping for Kids, Coping for Life. And I run our social media. So all of the glitches and that, like, that's all me. All the misspellings, those are all mine. Like, everything. I'm like, I don't even think autocorrect could have made that word, but somehow I put it in there. And I like always reread. And like, I still miss them. Like, I have no idea. There's just this disconnect. And then the next day I'm like, whoa, what does that say? I'm not going to lie. That's my kid, but I love her.
Hey, they got to watch us and hype us up too.
I mean, know, right? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Our number 1 supporter sometimes.
I'm saying.
So I'm trying to give people some time to drop us some more comments or questions before we wrap it up for tonight.
We're celebrating social workers. What's your favorite thing about being a social worker, Tawana?
Favorite thing.
Favorite thing.
I don't know. I guess that the fact that my job kind of fits my personality, that it just fits what I've always done.
Mm-hmm. So can you turn it off or can you not?
Nah. No.
Right.
Because one of the criticisms that I get is like you're always trying to help or helping when people didn't ask for it. Like just because someone mentioned something doesn't mean that they need or want your help. But well, doggone it, I don't want you suffering, and you told me about it, so like I gotta fix it. Like I can't just sit there and listen. Like, okay, but do you want me to just listen? So no, I can't.
Right.
Yeah.
I had a teacher yesterday who was getting down on herself because we got a kiddo that's really struggling, right? And she's like, I just feel like I'm not doing it right. And I said, I'm a social worker. We've been friends for a really long time. And if you were doing it wrong, I would tell you. I would do it really nicely. But I would be like, yeah, you're sucking right now. Like, do something else. But I would say it nicer than that, right? But I'm like, so I will tell you if you're doing it badly. Like, that's my job. But I'm good at saying it in a nice way. Yeah. So people can hear me. Yeah.
So my closing question for my guests are, if we're having breakfast, so I hope you answer this right, my fellow Midwestern. We're having breakfast. Are you going to serve us pancakes or waffles?
Oh, geez. We can't have both?
No.
Come on. Now I got 9 kids.
It's a battle.
We have to have like 5,000 things for breakfast. Like every meal is 2 meals. Everyone. So if we're having breakfast, first of all, we're going to have coffee. We're going to have good coffee. We're going to have fresh ground coffee. Because that's the only way to do it. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're having fresh ground coffee, fresh beans. Absolutely. Yeah. So we're going to do that. And then I'm going to make a fruit tray because I love fruit. And I like variety. So we're going to have fruit tray. So even if I pick the wrong one, we're still okay. Right? We're still okay. And then it comes down to which of my kids are there, because some of my kids are waffle kids and some are
No. This isn't an interview with your kids.
I know.
Are you going to serve us pancakes or waffles?
Probably pancakes. All right. That was the wrong answer.
Score. That's how we do in the Midwest. We do pancakes.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
So once again, I'd like to thank you for coming on, answering my call, and joining me today.
Absolutely. Good time.
Her information is going to be in links of the show notes. So y'all be sure to look her up. And outro. I hope that you enjoyed today's episode. It won't play though. It got me looking crazy. I hope that you enjoyed today's episode. I would like to thank my guests for joining me, or simply thank you for watching the pre-recorded episode. No matter what your birth order is, how you self-identify, and whether you like pancakes or waffles. If this is the first time you're hearing it today, I want you to know that you are loved. You were put here for a purpose that only you can fulfill. Until next time, take care of yourself. Be sure that you like and share the videos, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notifications bell. This is Real Ram out.